The universe has a twisted sense of humor. One minute, you're on top of the world, cycling down a sun-drenched road. The next, you're waking up to the sterile white ceiling of a hospital room with no memory of the last 12 hours, a patch of gravel, a distracted driver, and just like that, my life was cleaved in two. Before the accident, and at her dot in the before, my life with my wife, Cara, was, I thought, close to perfect. We were that couple, the one who still held hands, who finished each other's sentences. She was my rock, my everything. In the after, as I lay in a hospital bed with a shattered femur, a concussion, and more stitches than I could count, she was supposed to be my lifeline. For the first few days, she was there when I woke up, her eyes red-rimmed from crying. She held my hand, her touch a comforting anchor in a sea of pain and morphine. "I'm right here, baby," she'd whisper. "I'm not going anywhere." But after that first week, something shifted. My recovery was going to be long, 3 weeks in the hospital, followed by months of grueling physical therapy. The initial shock wore off and was replaced by a grim, tedious reality. Cara's visits became shorter, more distracted. The loving concern in her eyes was replaced by a kind of weary impatience. She'd sit by my bed, scrolling endlessly through her phone, a small, secretive smile occasionally gracing her lips. When I'd ask what was so interesting, she'd just shake her head. "Oh, nothing. Just my work group chat being ridiculous." The excuses started piling up. She'd miss a visiting hour because she was stuck in traffic. She'd leave early to let the dog out, even though our neighbor had offered to help. I was too weak, too mired in my own pain to question it. I chalked it up to stress. Her life had been appended to. She was juggling her job, the house, and, now, a broken husband. I felt guilty for being a burden. The person who planted the first seed of real doubt was, ironically, a nurse named Maria. She was a kind, no-nonsense woman who had seen it all. One evening, after Cara had made a hasty exit, Maria was checking my vitals. "Your wife seems busy," she said, her tone neutral but her eyes sharp. "She's got a lot on her plate." I mumbled, defending her out of habit. Maria just nodded slowly. "A man in your condition finds out who his real friends are," she said, more to herself than to me. "Finds out what his marriage is really made of, too." Her words hung in the air long after she left, a quiet, ominous warning. I was discharged on a Tuesday. I couldn't walk yet, so my brother dropped me off in a wheelchair. I had called Cara to let her know I was coming home, but she didn't answer. I figured she was on her way, planning some kind of welcome home surprise. The nightmare began the moment my brother wheeled me through our front door. The house was a mess. Not just untidy, but a mess of a life I didn't recognize. Dirty dishes were piled in the sink, but among them were 2 plates, 2 coffee mugs, 2 wine glasses. A man's jacket, a leather one I'd never seen, was thrown over the back of our armchair. On the coffee table, next to a stack of old magazines, was an ashtray with 2 cigarette butts in it. Neither Cara nor I smoked. A cold, sick feeling washed over me, more nauseating than any painkiller. "Who's been staying here?" I asked my brother, my voice a strained whisper. He looked around, his face grim. He didn't have an answer. He helped me into the living room and then, bless him, he knew I needed a minute. "I'll go grab your prescriptions from the car," he said. Making a quiet exit, alone, I wheeled myself slowly through the first floor of my home, which now felt like a stranger's house. It was the little details that screamed the loudest. A different brand of toothpaste by the sink in the downstairs bathroom. A half-eaten pizza box in the trash, a topping combination Cara hated but that I knew, with a sudden, gut-wrenching certainty, was the favorite of her coworker, an aggressive, overly familiar guy named Ben. She'd complained about him for years, but in the last few months before the accident, her complaints had suspiciously stopped. The final, soul-destroying piece of evidence was on the dining room table. It was a stack of mail, and tucked into it was a speeding ticket. It was issued 2 weeks ago, on a Saturday afternoon when Cara was supposed to be at home, catching up on laundry. The ticket was for her car. The driver's name listed, however, was Benjamin Foster. The violation had occurred in a town 50 miles away, near a lake known for its romantic getaway cabins. The sound that escaped my throat was something between a sob and a growl. My carefully constructed world, the one I had been clinging to from my hospital bed, shattered into a million pieces. She hadn't been overwhelmed. She hadn't been stressed. She had been living a different life, with a different man, in our home, while I lay helpless, counting the hours until I could see her again. She walked in 20 minutes later, all smiles and apologies. "I'm so sorry, honey. I got held up at the store. I wanted to have everything perfect for when you got home." She stopped when she saw my face. She saw the speeding ticket in my hand. Her smile vanished. Her face, for the first time in weeks, was a mask of pure, unadulterated panic. "What is this?" I asked, my voice trembling with a rage so profound it made me feel lightheaded. "What is this nightmare you've turned our home into?" There was no defense. The evidence was all around us. The jacket, the ashtray, the ticket was all there. She crumpled, the lies finally too heavy to hold up. "You were gone," she sobbed, as if a 3-week hospital stay was the same as a desertion. I was scared. Ben was there for me. I wasn't gone. "Cara," I said, the words feeling like shards of glass in my mouth. I was broken. I was in a hospital bed, dreaming of coming home to you. But I guess you were too busy making a home for someone else. Coming home was supposed to be the end of my ordeal. Instead, it was the beginning of a new one, far more painful than any broken bone. I had survived the accident, but I wasn't sure I would survive the aftermath of coming back to a life that had been so completely and utterly betrayed.